you have 10,000 to 50,000 XRP, the different things that you should be thinking about and at which points. This person says no tax on XRP, right? All digital assets currently have capital gains tax associated with them. They are taxed as property or a capital asset here in the US. Other jurisdictions, depends on where you're at, don't have to deal with the tax implications. And some, Japan just moved digital assets from a financial asset to infrastructure, or maybe they moved them to financial assets, and now they have a 20% capital gains tax across the board there in Japan on digital assets, and that includes XRP. So, Japan just went from 55 to 20. So the rest of the world's trying to catch up here. I think tax and that regime and how that's going to work with digital assets will likely be later this year. I interviewed the head of NABA, which is the North American Blockchain Association. He was on the channel a little while back, and privately we talked about things that would come up after the Clarity Act, and both insurance and tax were kind of further out in 2026 here. If we don't get the Clarity Act passed early in 2026 or midpoint in 2026, those probably get pushed into early 27 when they're going to be finalizing those things around digital assets. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think in the short term here, you're probably still going to owe taxes on your digital assets. I'm hopeful, just like everybody else, that those go away. But you got to live in the paradigm that currently exists and the current, regulations around stuff. So structuring things the right way to be able to mitigate taxes would be ideal. When it comes to having 10,000 or less, I don't think you need to worry about it a whole lot, to be honest with you. Even if we went to, let's call it, XRP goes crazy and it goes straight to $1,000, you have $10 million with 10,000 XRP. That's a lot of money. It's enough to retire on. You could move your stuff into an LLC at that point. You could move it into a trust. You have the money to pay for it. You can take your time, especially if it does what I think, which is move to a high value and then stay there based on transaction volume moving over the network. So not overly concerned there. A lot of the reason that you want to be proactive and set things up earlier on, if you had 50 to 80,000, is if we do see $1,000 XRP in a short period of time, you now have 50 to 80 million dollars, which is above the gift tax threshold here in the U.S. So with an LLC, you have some ways to be able to offset that or reduce that value to be able to move more of it out of your taxable estate. We've talked about this before, but you can, gift small portions of equity to other people that you care about, and then get a 409A done. And because you have multiple, minority owners on the cap table, you would get a reduction in value, even though the assets that are held by the corporation are worth more. The equity would be worth less because it's less marketable to somebody else.